Welcome to Burning Metal Shooting the Breeze episode 3. In this episode I'm joined by Darragh O'Connor of Horrenda, Autus, Aborted Earth. What's the other project?
Skylowitch.
Sorry?
Skylowitch?
Skylowitch, yeah, and the All Ireland Metal project. How's things with yourself anyway, man?
Hey man, thanks for having me on. I'm happy to be here.
Good stuff. I met you briefly back in the day when you were in Theories Divide, and it's a very different musical path you've taken since those days, it's fair to say, I think.
Yeah, back in the day, it was a Tuesday, as the expression goes. I think, when was that? That was around the 2014 or 2013. It was around then, so a couple of years ago now. And that was, I think I met you at one of the heats for Metal to the Masses. It was either the semis or the finals. It was up there anyway. And yeah, man, it's been a bit of a journey, all right, going from theories to symmetry to all the way through. But they're all still there in different ways. It's been kind of interesting to go from that kind of stuff to just kind of playing bass to like then going into songwriting and then ended up leading the All Ireland Metal project. Like it's something I never really thought I would do. I didn't even think Horrenda would become what it is, because it just started off as a solo thing and then just kind of rolled from there. But yeah, I have to say, like the Theories Divide thing, like that was a good kind of exposure into the music scene in Ireland, because like where the band was at the time and the gigs we were doing, you were kind of like, some of the lads that are still in the scene now are still involved, but a lot aren't, and it's changed quite a bit as well. What was interesting about that was at the same time I was with them, I was with Actual Symmetry, so I was gigging a lot. Like I was pretty much doing like a gig a weekend, and then it was like there were some points where I end up doing like one gig with Theories, and then there was one night where I was literally doing a gig with Symmetry in the Thomas house, and then I had to get a taxi over to Fibbers, so I had like 5 minutes in between to get there. It was mad, but yeah, it was a good experience, and like playing with those bands, you kind of got to meet everybody, got to meet yourself, got to like do the scene a little bit, and then it was a good learning curve as well. So shout out to all the lads.
Yeah. You never, to be honest with you, and when I remember you playing in Theories, you didn't really fit in that band. You didn't really match. I don't know what, you just didn't, not good.
Yeah,
I know Carcass had headphones pop cool forever when they put them in the artwork video, but you just kind of looked a bit out of place with the headphones on. The lads, giving it sucks, Yeah,
well, see, the thing about it is that wasn't that was like a necessary thing, because I was broke at the time, so I had no money, so I couldn't afford to buy in-ears. So I'm like, right, it's either and I can't wear the plug-in earphones because my ears don't work that way. And I was like, right, either I protect my ears or I get tinnitus.
Yeah.
So, or worse, tinnitus. Thankfully now my tinnitus has gone away for the most part, but for years I was like, that was it. So no, I agree, it sucked. It wasn't fun, and everyone would comment on it, and I'm like, so one of the first thing when I got money was to buy the in-ear earphones. So now I get them made and you can get them made in hidden hearing. Best €150 you'll ever spend. Because here's the thing, what people don't know is the whole time I wore those those over ear things, I never went to gigs, like ever, any gigs, because I couldn't do it. Like the only time I would go be in a metal environment would be to play shows with Theories or Symmetry. So yeah, that sucks. So I said the best €150 you'll ever spend, I get those in-ears, because like I did it for years. I'm playing music since I'm like 12, 13. And yeah, man, you didn't wear earplugs, you didn't wear protection, and you wake up the next night or next morning with the So yeah, no, listen, there was a lot of stick for it. I don't regret it. I just wish I had some money saved to get the in-ears sooner. But yeah, no, it's not that I didn't fit the band. I think like I enjoyed it for a point, and it was more kind of a stuff of when you're a bass player and you're not able to kind of play, when you're not able to write. So it's one thing I always try to do with the lads in any band I'm in, particularly with Horrenda. I'm like, look, write your part. I'm not going to tell you what to play. Just kind of play your part. And it got to the point with Theories where you'd be playing some kind of creative bass part, and I've always considered myself a bass player first and foremost. Even today, like I play guitar because I have to play guitar. It's just, you can't lead a band with a bass; it's too difficult. So, and Keith is one of the best bass players I've ever encountered. So obviously, but for me, I'm always like, right, bass player first. So I would try to do some creative stuff, and it just never really worked. You know, it never really kind of clicked, because you'd have the groove and you play forward, but there's only so much you're allowed to do in that band. And then I was like, right, well, I want to go off play with Symmetry and do some more with them. And then there was what kind of conflict in a few other bits and pieces as well. So it just came to a natural end. As a result, you know, there was some bad blood, all that kind of stuff over in Water under the bridge and stuff, but you know, it was that kind of wake up call where I was like, right, I need to make sure whoever I work with in future is all about collaboration, is all about this kind of stuff. And it wasn't the guy's fault, you know. They didn't really, you know, it just was what it was. It was that kind of thing where there's two things happen with bands. You know, everybody knows this. Either they will strangle each other to death because they don't want the band to break up, or they don't want to leave, or else they'll embrace working together. You know, it's kind of like you have a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, and you cheat on them. You know, and that's what it kind of feels like. You're like, oh, you're with them, but you're supposed to be with me. And that's kind of what it's like, you know. And there is that, and that's one thing where even in my own bands as well, I'm like, no, go work with everybody, learn from everybody, and then come back, and you'll get all the weird shit out of you. You know, like, oh, I want to go do a, you know, for me, I want to go do an ambient soundscape album, you know, and instead of that being weird, Mark's like, yeah, let's do this too, and we work on it together, where it's just weird soundscape doom metal album, you know. And that's what kind of comes out of that, you know. It's that kind of stuff where you're willing to embrace all the weirdness in side projects, and that's where my love of side projects came from. Like I love them. I think they're the best thing bands can do, because it keeps everything fresh. It gets you to go off and work with people who you've never actually worked with before, and then you take back to your own band and you're like, okay, I've learned this cool stuff. I've maybe played this instrument, or if you learn this new technique, and that all comes from my time with Theories, where, you know, we do a gig. Like when I started, we had a set. When I finished 3 years later, we added like 2 songs to that set. And that's why it just didn't click for me, because I'm like, no, I need to go off and I need to play different things. But I would have never realized that if I hadn't played with them. And I got to play some good shows with them, got to hang out with lads, got to meet loads of people in the scene. And, you know, it's not an experience I look on negatively, but, you know, it's definitely a case in point why I love side projects so much, you know, because I'm like, we're musicians, we need them, you know, we need to be creative. And it's all Jason Newsted's thing, right, as well, where like that's what he said. It was like, yeah, and I was like, oh well, it's true. Even in a smaller band, you know.
Big help with the All Ireland Metal Project as well, that you've got so much experience with side projects as well, because
well, that's it, man. You know, like, you know, as I said, like that's the root of it. You know, for me, I've always come forward with that, where it's like, we need to work together. We need to, you know, you need to grow, and you don't know what you don't know until you're in the shit, you know. And yeah, like it's crazy that happened, but I will always work with people. I've worked with I'd like to work with anyone who I can, you know. If anyone comes, hey, Darragh, I want to do a track, I'm like, yeah, all right, let's do a track, you know. And either that's going to go bad or it's going to go well. What's cool about the atmosphere now, even looking back to 2014, a lot more bands are less insular. They're less inward focused. They're more kind of like, all right, let's look at what the bigger picture is. And that's cool for me. You know, I'm like, wow, okay, you know, you're getting in these bands, you're getting in these guys, these girls, and they're like, okay, let's all do projects together, let's all do tracks together. And for me, that's great. I'm like, well, right time, right place. But then again, having all that experience with side projects helps.
I think you're frozen there, have you? You froze a bit there. You're back. Oh, you're back.
Yeah, I'm back now. Yeah.
Typical Zoom thing, you know. If you don't freeze at least once, you haven't done it right. But yeah, Corenda have really come on a long way in the last few years. Like, you know, it'd be fair to say at the start, you know, you had lineup issues and you couldn't really keep it stable. But the last few years now, you seem to be finally found the right people, and you're kind of really going from strength to strength in every aspect.
Cheers, man. I appreciate that. Like, you know, Horrenda was never supposed to be a band. That's the thing. I think that's what people don't remember sometimes. Like, it's a band that had like 2 or 3 different lives. The first, you know, have we dropped again? We're back.
Yeah. I can see you anyway. I'm fine on my end.
Oh,
I can see you. Are you all right?
yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah,
Can
so I
you
don't
hear
know
me
what
there? Yeah.
happened. Yeah, and it was about the horrenda anyway.
I don't know. Yeah, so like Horrenda wasn't supposed to be a band. It was a solo project, you know, and it was just like I wrote a lot of it in my time at Symmetry. I wrote an electronic project around the same time. I pretty much just like sit there and just write after gigs or something like that, you know. And then I just banged out a bunch of stuff, and I was like, all right, well, it is what it is, you know. But then what happened was after I was like, look, there's no black metal in Ireland, really. You know, it's not really like a scene. Like, you know yourself, there was loads of different trash bands and stuff, but there wasn't any black metal. I'm like, all right, well, that's just gonna play it. And then I was like, well, how can I make this? How can I do this live? So the first two Horrenda releases can't be played live because they just the way they can't. Like they have like 8 guitar tracks and stuff. It's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
So Neronian Times was written with the expressive purpose to be able to be played live. And then that's when we started having the lineup. So then we got a couple of people in, were just me, you know, and then I was like, right, let's kind of go through and see if we can build a few lineup who actually want to do this full time. Because like the thing about black metal at that time, I had lots of friends from different bands I was in Saint Slaughter and stuff like that as well. So Tom was like, oh yeah, I'd love to play, you know. And met CJ from I was in the All Iron Metal project as well from Eternal Eyes. And you know, we did a gig together. That was Aaron's first gig, and then we just kept cycling through members. But for the longest time, for about a year, nearly 2 years, it was just me and Aaron trying to find people who weren't going to leave. And then eventually we found Jay, and then we found Keith, and that's when we really locked in as we're all in this together. Like Horrenda went through 11 members.
Jesus.
That's another thing that people don't know that either. It went through 11 members to try and find our lineup. So that's why when the All Iron Metal project was happening, I'm like, look, I've been through members. It's fine. You know, this is not a problem. We've been here. And that's it. Like, so, and then once we got Keith in, we started doing all the stuff that we were doing, started doing a bunch of gigs, and then we found Mark randomly. It was just great, you know, and then we all clicked together. And, you know, we were actually talking about this like last week, just, you know, after rehearsals. It was like, for the longest time, the joke was, you know, before Jay and Keith, it was like, oh, you can if they can be replaced by a guitar pedal, they're gone, you know. And now it's the point where we can't replace them with a computer or a guitar pedal or something. They are essential. So yeah, man, like I appreciate the kind words, but it's weird. Like Horrenda is a band that's when I talk about it, there's the beginning, there's the middle, and then there's what there is now. So as a band that we are now, completely different. But that's because we've only been a band for 2 years, really.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And yeah, it's great, you know, when we're all locking together and it's going quite well. The last album was really successful, the video, all that kind of stuff. It sucked that COVID happened.
Yeah.
But hey, it is what it is, right? We have a couple of things planned coming up that we're going to get done as soon as we get through the All Iron Metal project. We're kind of going back into that. And like I can't talk about what they are, but you know, a few things like new single, video, merch, and something really surprising coming up soon as well. So yeah, man, like the support we've got has been huge. The fan base change has been crazy, and you know, just the fact that you're walking around sometimes and you'll see someone wearing a Horrenda shirt, or you'll see more of them, and it's just like, oh wow, that's weird, you know. Or you'll see like you just whatever, just the awareness that the band exists, or you'll be talking to someone like, oh, I'm a huge Horrenda fan, and I'm like, really? Okay, you know, it's still weird, you know. So appreciate it.
Well, the last album was excellent, though, man. That got loads of best of awards, wasn't it? Best of list, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was nominated for a bunch of them, all right, and it got a huge reach and sold really well as well. Like, and then the video came out and that won an award, and it was fantastic to see. Like, when we did it, we weren't sure if we went too light, if we were too we got the edge away, but no, it was good. It was their kind of like mission statement of where the band is, and it's the truest representation of where we are. And we learned a lot from it as well. Like, there was one point where me and Mark had to go up to Josh and actually like fix the album, because I said to him, I said, look, this is a 6 out of 10 right now. We have to go up and fix it. And we went up, and within a day we got it back up to an 8 or a 9. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. you know, my personal 8 or 9. So when I listen to it, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm happy with that, you know, which is weird because usually when I release something, I'm not happy with it. I'm like, oh, that mistake there. But because we actually had that time to go through it, I was like, right, this is the best that we can do at this point in time. And, you know, for the next album that we're going to do, we have a proper plan worked out and how we're going to do it as well. Because it was a first learning experience for all of us. Like, remember, this is Mark's first band. This is Aaron's first band. And it's Jay's first real band, you know. So me and Keith have been in the shit for years, you know. When I was with Thierry's, actually, he was doing gigs with Dry Socket, so it's weird that how it all kind of comes together, you know. But it's the lad's first band, so like, right, how do we do an album? It was my first real studio album too, so I'm like, right, how do we do this? And thankfully Josh was there to help us, and you know, Shannon came up and helped as well. So I'm really happy people liked it, you know, and it's the next one is going to be even better. That's what I can say.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So we'll knock on a bit of Horrenda here now and let people have a listen to it.
Absolutely.
Here we go. Well, I played it all there, but it's a short song, so might as well give it all.
It is. It's a radio-friendly song. That's the thing.
Guitar tone is very different, though. And it's not your typical guitar tone for black metal, I find.
Yeah, it's weird. Well, okay. Well, we talked a little bit before we started recording. You know, was Thierry's Divide my first band? No, it wasn't. My first band was when I was like, 16, 17. And then my first band, that was a school band. And then my first band outside of school was a band called Valcata. Actually, right now, they're a real band. They're another real band. They're a symphonic power metal band now. So do check them out, actually. The guitarist, the keyboardist works on it, and his stuff is mad. So Valcata, do check it out. Well, back in the day, which was a Tuesday, Valcata was something else. Trash band. And so we did a song called The Forgotten Prince, and that riff, yeah, I've just always liked that riff. So one day I was just playing it because we used to practice up in Unit 1. And one day I was just like, just played that riff. And the lads are like, I really like that riff. I'm like, yeah, me too, but we can't use it. And then I actually was just like, okay, look, we wrote the song. And then I messaged Scott, who was the guitarist in that, who's a doctor now. And I was like, hey, man, listen, random question. Can I have that riff? And he goes, yeah, it's your riff. I'm like, okay. So he's credited on the album and the track for that. So it was cool that it got a second life, and everyone in the band who was in the band now is also credited on the album as well, and they love it. So that's where that comes from.
Very good.
But the guitar tone, it's much more of a thrash song than a black metal song.
Yeah.
And yeah, like we still have thrash metal roots. Like Jay, big thrash drummer. Myself, obviously played in thrash bands, and it's a cool little bit. Like the only real kind of black metal thing in it is the drums, and Jay obviously just threw in those blast beats as we were recording. So we didn't even know that was going to happen. And then one of Mark's great skills actually is to blacken up the songs. So he'll just throw in like a cool riff that just like blackens up everything. So you can have like the happiest song ever, and then he'll throw in a little riff, and it just makes it sit nice and well. But yeah, man, it's a different. But that's the thing about black metal, like it's not a set genre. And that's why I like it. It's not just corpse paint and blast beats. It's like it can be anything. You could have like, it's all about the atmosphere that you create and stuff like that. And our shows are always really atmospheric, even if we don't play like the blackest true black metal, which is a ridiculous thing anyway. Because we've done it, we can do it. We don't want to do that anymore. We want to kind of see how far we can go. And I would say, look at Aishan, like look what Emperor have done. That's the kind of thing, or even Behemoth. It's like, let's kind of go that. People really like that, where you're playing this black and death metal stuff, but you can jump back and forward and jump into different areas and have weird beats. And from a songwriting standpoint, you can do a hell of a lot more if you actually realize that black metal is huge, not this little small thing. Because the little small thing you can do, but eventually, one, that doesn't work live for the most part, and two, you get very sick of it because you're like, I've done it already. So we're at the point now where we're trying to push and write songs for us that people seem to really like. So it's like, all right, this works. It's, as I said, when you're in a band, the problem with playing live is also the great thing about playing live. You play live, you road test the songs. You don't get time to write new songs. But when you do get time to write new songs, you get to test them. Right now, where there's no shows, you don't get that. So we're like, right, well, what do we want to write? And that's what we're kind of doing now.
Very good, very good. And week 3, the ice cream van appeared again. For fuck's sake, that ice cream van, it always seems to come when I'm doing this.
A half A. That's mad.
The fuck, man. Anyways, we'll move on to Outus now.
Yeah.
Outus was another solo project as well, wasn't it?
Well, it's funny. Outus is... So Jay got attacked, right?
Oh, I remember that, Jeez, he got really fucking brain damage nearly.
Well, nearly, yeah. He got blood on the brain and everything.
How about that, yeah? Jesus Christ,
yeah. Right? So it's not funny, but it is a good story because it's true, and we just had terrible luck. So we were kind of sitting there like, what happened? So basically, for anyone who doesn't know the story, it was, I think it was Good Friday, and Jay messaged us and he goes, hey lads, I've just been attacked. And we're like, what? And he goes, yeah, I was coming out of work and I got jumped by a bunch of junkies, and they... I woke up and the guards are around me, and I woke up with 30 euro in my pocket that I didn't have initially. So we're like, the junkies gave you money? What happened? Like, it's... Anyway. So, yeah, this is all true. And then we're like, okay, man, so let us know you're okay. And he goes, oh, I'm fine. So the guards took him home instead of the hospital. And then his mom came in and there was blood everywhere. And he went to the hospital. And we're like, oh, my God. So we were freaking out going, what's going on? So eventually we found out what happened and that he was okay. But... as he said, risk of brain damage, blood on the brain, all that kind of stuff. So he couldn't play, and he couldn't hear for ages. Couldn't play drums.
Fuck.
So for about, what was it? It was like 3 or 4 months. It was a long period of time. There was no Horrenda. We were effectively like done. We had to cancel shows in the north. We had to cancel shows in England. And then we go to England, man. Stuff happens. Like the last time we were supposed to go to England, COVID happened. So we're just horrifically unlucky with the UK in general. And we're just like, right. So so that's what happened. And then we were like, okay, and I had these bank of songs written, like loads of songs written. I was like, okay, I just need to get these out. Because like I describe songwriting as the tap that turns on, and I don't know if other people are the same, but for me, I can't sit down to write a song. I just turn the tap on, and then I write whatever comes into my head. And that's my process. So I can sit down and write like 2 albums, or it can be 6 months, and I can write nothing, nothing, and it sucks because you can't just sit there and force it, right? So I had a bunch of these songs written, and I was like, okay, what do I do? I don't have my band. My drummer is in hospital. What do I do? Then I met Shannon, and we're like, let's just work on stuff. So he helped me, with Eldis, kind of develop it. We worked together. He wrote a bunch of tracks, I wrote a bunch of tracks, and we really kind of went back and forward and, expanded stuff out. So really, like that first Eldis album, The Sacred and Profane, is the sequel to Neronian Times. It actually is like it's the direct Horrenda album that should have been a Horrenda album, but it wasn't. So that was it. Like, and I really like it. I think it's a great album. It's a lot of fun. Again, it's one of those solo projects things that I said. There's stuff in there that would never be in a Horrenda album, that never could be in a Horrenda album. But I got to get that out. I got to kind of experiment with it and grow as a musician in that way, which directly fed into the new way we write with Horrenda. Dropping tunings, try different song structures. Aaron won't let us use keyboards in Horrenda, so we don't. But I can use loads of keyboards anywhere else. And it's that kind of thing, Still haven't got around to working on some songs from that album into the Horrenda set. We might eventually. But, that was it, man. Like, it was one of those situations where it was, when the tap comes on, you either write or you don't. And you just, it took a long time for that tap to come on. And it kind of came on literally from being in those other bands where I wasn't really allowed to write. But now I'm like, right, when it comes, it's like, right, we have to do this kind of stuff. And that's how it works for me. Like, there's, like, even with Horrenda now, Mark has done a lot of the writing because the tap just wasn't on for me for a little while. But then obviously playing with Aborted Earth and getting more creative that way again, I was like, okay, grand, it's back on. It happens. And that's the cool thing about sharing the writing duty with someone, because that pressure isn't there to write more material. Because in my opinion, if you write material that doesn't come naturally and doesn't feel like it's good to you, it's not good. What's the point,
Yeah. What's Shannon's project, Zero Pulse? That's still going, it is, yeah?
Yeah, look, Shannon's the only person I know that can sit there and write like 16 albums in a day. He's that good. The incredible talent. He's probably wrote 16 albums as we're having this conversation, and that's not an exaggeration. He just pump them out like you wouldn't believe. So it's, oh man, just unbelievable, like so prolific, and they're all good. That's the thing. Like, it's just like, wow, But yeah, he will do some Zero Pulse, some stuff sometimes. He'll like do different things. At the moment, like, he's really enjoying this All Ireland Metal project. He gets to do all the weird stuff. Which is great. But yeah, like, it's all like, it's like without us, like sometimes like if I have stuff, I release an out track. If I want to do something weird, I'll release an out track. If I have it, because that's it. And then sometimes I just want to do black metal, so I'll just like, okay, black metal track, straight up raw black metal. And that's kind of how it is now. At that point, they're just like places to put your music somewhere, because you're not releasing them for anyone other than yourself and some people who like it. Like, I know there's some Eldis fans. I know there's some 32X fans, which is really weird. But it is what it is. Like, they're not my main bands. They're just, whenever the tap comes on, it has to go somewhere, or else it stays in your head, and then it leaks into Horrenda, which is what I'm talking about. Having these side projects, it puts them into a good area where they fit, so you don't go off your sound and start sounding weird, and then you end up with, I know if I was writing some weird stuff and it wasn't controlled, it'd be like weird, mad space rock with like incredibly atmospheric stuff, and it would just be like, what's this? So you got to kind of keep that streamlined,
Good stuff, sure. We'll knock on a bit of Outus here now and let people have a listen. Well,
that's not it.
That's not it.
That's not it.
Fucking ads. There we go. stuff. Play that all again because it's another short song, but yeah, it's very different from her end, and now isn't it? The direction and the sound and everything. It's a totally different beast.
Yeah, like there's, as I said, like there's no point for me. There's no point like doing a side project that's like the exact same thing as what you're doing your main band is, because like what's the point of that? That does feel like cheating on your band, you know. But yeah, no, like it was. I love Demon Ball Gear, and I just wanted to write a Demon Ball Gear song, and did. But it's weird. I wrote that one around the time that the terrorist attacks were happening in Paris, because I love Paris, and that one really hit the Bataclan stuff. I was like, oh my god, like yeah, it really messed with me a little bit, and I wrote that song in a day, just watching the watching the news reports coming in, and I was like, whoa, you know. This is I could have been there, you know, because I was supposed to be at the Bataclan, see Angels and Airwaves like a couple of months before. I just wrote it. I was just like, wow, that's what I mean. When the tap comes on, man, like it's like you just channel stuff and it just comes out. Like you cannot, like I can't make it happen. So it was weird to just write a song that's that good. Personally, I think it's a good song. In like that short space of time. So yeah, like a lot of the terrorist attacks that happened around that time influenced that album, because like Horrendous stuff was quite political and self-reflective, and now it's kind of moved to being its own kind of thing, but Otis still has a lot of political elements to it sometimes. Again, whatever comes up, you know, like the way I even do vocals, I will kind of like just, you know what scrying is?
No.
Scrying is an old occultic thing where you like look into a mirror and then try to just kind of pull stuff out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's that kind of thing. It's like, or like free writing, you know, where you just kind of go into. So that's what that. Anytime I do vocals in that way, I'll just kind of like just go into that place where you just, yeah, almost automatic, and then you kind of come back in and clean it up. And that's kind of what was happening there. I was just like, you know, what is the direct feeling that you're getting from this kind of stuff? And that's what it is. That's the raw black metal. You know, that's the real kind of raw stuff that you're tapping into. But like using the keyboard, like, but then after you get that, you're like, right, how can I make the song good? And then you're like, right, well, new techniques. Drum tracks cool, drums sound great, good mix. Add in a lot of keyboards, have a cool kind of synth line, and like it became like a proper Demo Gear song, but about something, you know, about like the horror of, you know, people going to a gig and then being massacred for it, you know, is what it's about. And yeah, man, like completely different. Like it wouldn't fit with a Horrenda. It wouldn't be something that people would necessarily expect at a black metal show or from us. So, you know, that's what I mean. I kind of was able to get it out there. It's a song that I still like a lot. But also influenced us directly, because, you know, we tuned down. We started kind of writing songs that are a bit more technical. Like a lot of early Horrenda isn't technical on purpose, because like when you're going through 11 members and you're trying to play shows, it's kind of hard to teach new person all the guitar part, you know what I mean? So it was just kind of like, you know, easy and straightforward black metal, you know. But now as we're kind of going on and, you know, refining the process, you can actually kind of trust your bandmates, so you can write these more technical riffs and these more technical parts. And that, you know, with the House album, I'm like, right, well, what actually works here? But one thing I would have to say, and I do miss it, when you're in a studio and you're on studio time, you don't get time to noodle, you know, where you're just kind of like, actually, we'll try this part here, we'll try this there. Like Josh did help it a fair bit, actually. We did the thing called the shit track, where you just kind of mess around with the track and then you'd put it in. But for me, I like to sit here and just play for like 2 or 3 hours till I get a part sometimes. And then that's when you get like the weird creative kind of parts. Like in that song, there's like a cool little line where, like, you know, it just kind of comes naturally, where like you can cheat and use musical theory, where like it goes here, it goes here, it goes here. But then when you're playing it, you can feel out parts. And that's one thing that like I'm doing in the All Ireland Metal project as well, because I haven't had the opportunity to do that in a couple of years. So, but without us, it's a very similar workflow as well. So it's cool, man. Like, you know, if people hadn't listened to that album, they should, because there's a lot there, you know. It's quite a dense, 20 tracks, like it's mad, like it's a long album, you know, but all the tracks do tell a story. They're all about kind of stuff. It's very like Neuronian Times, you know, it's a direct follow on from it, right? So all the stuff that's in Neuronian Times is picked up in that album as well. And, you know, so if you like Neuronian Times and haven't listened to Otis yet, you probably should.
Yeah, I haven't listened to the Owl stuff in a long time myself, but I listened to it at the time when it came out, and it's a fucking great album, man. Fair play, like,
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, dude. Like, as I said, it was the kind of thing where, you know, you just have to write sometimes, you know, and if the tap comes on, you're like, okay, I have to record this or it's going to drive me mad. So you just record it, and then, you know, whatever happens. And, you know, it's weird. Like, a lot of the stuff that you would write about, you know, like, Horrendous is not a political band. Like, sometimes, like, the world's political, right? But we're all libertarians. So you know, we are what we are. We don't really care what people do or whatever, you know, but there's certain things that you're like, I want to talk about this. Talk about this. I want to talk about this. Talk about this. You know, and that's kind of where we go. And without us, I'm like, okay, it's still not super political, but we're going to talk about certain things that's gone on in the world. Because 2015 was mad, dude. Like, 2016 was mad. Like, you know, still things are mad. Yeah, every year's mad. But like, this is when you started being like, yeah, it's getting worse. But you're just like, well, things are really starting to pick up. And I'm like, okay, well, seeing this stuff on my TV or whatever, and you're like, right, let's write about it. You know, it's kind of, because I believe metal should be about something. You know, it should actually have something to say, instead of, I'm going to fight you, you're going to fight me, and, you know, that kind of thing. Look how tough we are. But that's one thing I always picked up from Symmetry, you know, working with Gav. You know, that was a very political band. Like, we were literally explicitly political, you know. So I would still kind of, you know, that's where a lot of any political songs we write directly come from, a time working with Gav and working with Symmetry.
Very good. Like,
I mean, I actually missed time with Symmetry. They were great times.
They're sound lads as well. Like, and
yeah.
Like, the political aspect was what got me into the music, metal music as well. Like, with Sepultura and Rage Against the Machine and stuff like that. It felt like it was, you were learning something by checking more of their stuff out about the Kiovis clan committing mass suicide against the government in Brazil. Like, you know,
yeah. Like, that's it, man.
You wouldn't get that from many types of music. Like, you know, most music wouldn't even dream of covering something like that.
No, like, you know, with metal, there's only so much, you know, you can talk about beer and getting drugs and fighting someone, you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, that works out for a lot of people, but what I do like about it is it's that kind of scope where you can talk about different things, you know. And what I've always liked to do, I've always liked to kind of keep it free and open. So it was like, okay, you want to do a song about Mystical Demon? Cool. You want to do a song about, you know, been chasing the forest? Cool. You want to do a political song? Cool. And like, anything we kind of do, we always make sure it's like, it's a good song first, and if it has a good message, that's even better, you know. But like, the minute you start walling yourself into, we are this kind of band, it does the same thing. If you're like, we're a political band, you release a song that's not about that, people are like, hey, where's the politics? You know, it's like, you got to keep it free and open, you know. Exactly. Yeah, it's more like, you know, it's whatever you're feeling at the time, and it is that kind of tap mentality.
Very good. How did the Bar Darragh come about, actually?
Oh man, I don't remember. It was such a weird story. Okay, no, I do remember. Okay, so how did it come about? Right, so we had a guitarist who wasn't. So I've been aboard the Earth longer than Shannon, but it's Shannon's band, right? So Jamie and myself and another guy wanted to do this project, and I was like, yeah, man, look, I'll play bass, whatever. And then we got another guitarist in, and he kind of disappeared. And then Jamie was like, oh, I have another guitarist, he's really good. And I'm like, all right, cool. And then it was Shannon. I'm like, you mean it was just Shannon the whole time? Who does your new guitarist? And he goes, yeah, you know, Shannon. I'm like, Otis, Horrenda, whatever. So yeah, and then Shannon joined in. We properly became like a band, you know, who would release stuff. So like, a lot of, again, it's a weird kind of a weird birthing process, you know, to like being a band. But yeah, we released an EP. I was playing bass for ages, you know. I really like, just like, for the longest time I didn't like playing bass. After being a bass player solely for years, I didn't enjoy it anymore. And then I started to enjoy it more and more, and now I really like playing bass again. But you know, just on albums and stuff like that, it's fun to play, just sit there and just do a cool bass line, you know. And that's what Aborted Earth was for me initially. Like, they just sent me a bunch of tracks, I'd sit down, I'd bang them out in a day, and there we go. And then it kind of developed. It became like Shannon wrote more, because Shannon, he writes more than anyone humanly can. It's amazing. It really is. And then we were like, actually, you know what would be cool? Doing live shows. And we're like, oh, okay. So it's the weird Horrenda process where it's like, oh yeah, we like playing these songs, let's play them live. So then it was that weird thing where we were like, okay, how do we make an album experience live? And then that's, you know, I don't know if you've seen us live, Phil, or not. I don't think you have. Well, to be fair, we've only done like 3 shows. It's not that many. The Metal to the Mass one was a good show, to be fair. I think that's like the best Horrendous show and the best Aborted, because I did them back to back in the same heat, and they were the 2 best shows that I think we've done for both the bands. So excited to kind of get back into it, but we'd use a lot of samples. So we do like, I have a pedal with all them in, so we hit a lot of samples and kind of work on how it was put together. And that's kind of how we went to, like with Aborted Art, it's not really like a gig. It's kind of like an experience where you're kind of feeding out this experience to people. Horrendous Show is also an experience, but it's a lot more gig like, because you're not trying to play around with direct translations of what's on the album to what's on the show, but they're 2 totally different beasts. And I will have to say, I prefer like a lot of shows we do with Horrendous and Aborted Earth. Obviously, I'm in both of them, but I do prefer when Aborted Earth is before Horrendous, because they're like an amazing warm up because the songs are so technical. But when the Aborted Earth shows after Horrendous, which was the case with the Metal to the Masses, man, I'm in bits. I was complete, like I had like 20% in the tank. Just I was destroyed from the Horrendous show, because you give everything to the Horrendous show, because it's just that kind of music. But with Aborted Earth, you're a lot more focused on the fretboard and trying to play these technical parts. I was in bits though, so yeah, great show. But I never want to play an Aborted Earth show after Horrendous are playing, because it's really hard. It's really not a good experience. But the first time when you're playing open them, it's great because you're totally warmed up then.
Yeah, Aborted Earth really it changed a lot though. Where like it was more like a grindcore thing to begin with, and now it's kind of like an industrial thing. Like it really has evolved. Like,
oh yeah, man! Like Shannon and myself love industrial music. I love industrial. Like actually, it's funny that the Atlas album that's still in progress is an industrial album, like 100% an industrial album. It's actually a Static X album basically, on Fear Factory album, but that's put on hold because the All Ireland Metal thing.
Oh yeah.
But so yeah, like that was just going to happen anyway. The more we start writing songs, but like grindcore is the same thing where it's supposed to be one kind of music, and then we just kind of like, well, what do we want to write? Okay, well, we want to write some punk songs, some whatever, and it's just cool. It's what happens when bands become bands. They're like, here's what we want to write today, and then we got Shannon's brother in to play bass. Ian, he's a nice guy. I've met him once, and we did a thing. We released the EP, the live EP. So it's like, hey man, welcome to the band. Now you're going to record. It's actually similar to what happened with Keith, where it's like, hey man, welcome to the band. We're recording next week. It's actually the exact same thing. But yeah, so look, Aborted Earth, it sucks that we were kind of just stopped where we were when things were starting to get rolling for us. But yeah, like I'm excited to get back to playing shows with them, and I think as soon as Shannon can come up here with Ian, we'll be able to kind of release some more music. But even during the pandemic, we did release some music. We released like Maga and Mechanical something machine or whatever. There's loads of music. I don't even know what the names of the songs are. I'm just like, is it the one that does the thing? Okay, right, Grant. And that's kind of it. I just play guitar or bass, so it's fun. It's fun for me anyway. It's very fulfilling music.
Yeah, Jamie is very prolific himself too. He released an EP there recently himself too. Like he seems to be always at something. Like,
oh man, Jamie's great. Like it's cool. Like even on the Atlas album, the new one, like I initially wanted to do the guest thing where I'd have guests on every track, and he was the first one that came back, and we actually have that song sitting there for months, and it's actually a really good track as well. So Jamie's fantastic. Like with Aborted Earth, we're really lucky because we have guys who are like doers in different things who will just release stuff, and that's why the Aborted Earth catalog is so huge, because it's like they'll just bang them out. So Jamie's great. I'm really happy to be in the band with Jamie actually. He is, yeah, he is. Yeah, I don't know which group now. If they're quiz me on that, I don't know, but he is.
So we'll knock on a bit of Aborted Earth then. Now, then we'll move on to the All Ireland project, or what you can say and what you can't say. Like you don't have to say anything you don't want to.
Sure.
Away.
Yeah, a real Ministry vibe to that whole EP, even the cover of Filth Pig in there as well.
Yeah, no, it's like that's it. Like we love Ministry.
Yeah.
Just a great band. Well, their new stuff is not great, but they are still a good band. And it's weird. Like we don't really know what the next. I'm the wrong person to have on to talk about Aborted Earth because I literally don't write anything. I just play guitar and play bass sometimes, depending on what's needed. But I always enjoy what we play. It's I'm starting to write a bit more. I've wrote 1 or 2 songs that might be played soon, might not be. But it really is Jamie and Shannon's band, and I'm really happy to play with them. As I said, selfishly, it's a great warm up before Horrenda. But to just kind of go in and work with them it's class because the songs they release are always super fun. Having Dan from Crossfire in the band is class too. Like he just like I did not think we'd get Dan's in the band.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. But we were looking for a drummer for a while. And he showed up and absolutely killed it. Like it's great, So what would be cool is Crossfire, Horrenda, and Aborted Earth on the show. That would be fun. Might happen someday. But
man.
Oh yeah, fun though, man. See, I love those kind of shows because playing black metal shows are fun, right? But when it's a weird lineup, you're like, this is great because you get like the crowd and they're like, what the fuck? Like, what was that? And it's always super fun, to kind of see that. It's why we like to go out to the masses as well because you always get that. You get like people who just show up like, oh, we're Fibbers for the night, and then they see like Aaron up on stage like scaring the shit out of people, and you're like, ha, that's gas, or Aborted Earth is just super fun, and it just kind of works, So we'll see what happens, but yeah, man, like the next album, like proper album, studio album, we're hoping to get Dan in studio and do it properly in that way. So that's one thing that as soon as COVID lifts or when things get back to normal, whatever that means, we'll be able to do it. So if you haven't checked Aborted Earth out yet, do. That was difficult to say because we're completely different live than we are on CD, but we still try to keep that as much as possible.
Thought I was the one drinking here, man.
Oh man, I know. I just have water,
Shout out to Southern Strike Records as well. That's who you're signed to, like.
Yeah, well, Horrenda were signed to them, but they're like, hey, look, we if you guys want to go somewhere else, you totally can. So, but we're still partnerships with them, but we're looking for a new label at the moment. But the thing about it is, great lads, sound lads, love the shows. We're still going to be doing shows with them there as well up north when we can. And Aborted Earth are still signed with Southern Strike as well. So, great lads. I love them all. They're class. So, shout out.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that all these releases lined up and the whole fucking pandemic kicked in and fucked everything like. But
oh man, look, I know it. But the thing of it is, like, we're recovering from it now. It's kind of, well, there's still people in the scene, but the scene is kind of smashed. And that's kind of why the All Ireland Metal Project exists, right? That's why we're kind of doing it, to kind of take stock and see, right, who's left after this apocalyptic hammer has just hit. Like, where is everybody at, you know? And it's bleak, but it's not as bleak as it was. I have to say, like, from doing the project, I'm not as pessimistic as I would have been, say, a couple of months ago, where it's like, okay, there's nothing left. No, there actually is. We're in good shape, but I think we needed something to kind of come together, because it's very difficult when, you know yourself, Phil, like when you're putting on a show or you're doing a show, it's a lot easier to be like, hey, you have this place, come to this place. This is where the gig's going to be. When it's something more kind of like that you can't actually put your finger on it, it's a lot harder, to kind of get people on board, and it's cool that people have. So I guess we should probably talk about the All Ireland Metal Project now.
Oh yeah, but it just really came about at the right time. It was like the vaccination program had started, and there was light at the end of the tunnel. Bloodstock and Damnation are more than likely going to go ahead. They're probably going to be only English bands, but they're
but still,
it's moving forward. Things are starting to come back, and when there was a bit of optimism after Christmas was a fucking disaster. Like the infinite
oh man,
country up.
That was
fucking stupid, man.
That was so dark. New Year's Eve. I literally sat in my room, in this room, watching Sabrina, the last season, drinking rum. Like, this is so depressing. Sabrina's a good show, though. To be fair, the new one, the dark one, it's a good show if people want to watch it. But that's why I spent my New Year's Eve doing, because it was like, this is so depressing. But cracking rum makes everything better. Yeah. Not condoning alcoholism, but still, in moderation, everything's good, right? But yeah, man, like, as I said, I have to give you credit for the All Ireland Metal Project initially, because like, if you hadn't have actually posted it, because we're both huge fans of the Roadrunner United project, right? I know for years I wanted to do this, yourself as well has said it many, many times. And if it wasn't for you doing that post, I wouldn't have went off for a walk with my dog and thought about it for like an hour. Yeah. And then after that, I was like, right, this is how to actually do it and make it sustainable and actually get it to work. So, credit has to go to you, man, because if you hadn't posted it up, I wouldn't. And, fair play to social media. Like, as bad as it can be, and it is bad in lots of ways, it's also good as well, because these kind of things kind of happen, And, I was like, right, well, how would this actually work? How would this not fall apart in the first week? Mm-hmm. Which is why I thought would happen, and it's why I took my time with it. And then once we put it together, it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And now it's in a stage where, we're doing the mid review of it the next 2 weeks. And then we should actually be able to start announcing what we have. Mm-hmm. Now I would say, Carl Kingwell's Court, like, when we do have something to talk about, we're going to talk about it there probably in great detail. But right now, like, it's exciting because, like, I don't know who's going to be on it. I don't know what's going to happen. I just know that there's lots of tracks in development, and it's really exciting from what I've heard. Mm-hmm. But again, it's still kind of like, we'll see, right? It's like, I've heard a bunch of tracks so far. They're class. Mm-hmm. They're all really good. And the excitement and buzz of this thing is huge, right? So I'm involved in 5 tracks myself in different stages of development. I'm doing with Tomas Hines, absolutely fantastic musician. Cannot believe someone that young is that talented. It's incredible. Shout out to him. We did like the most cult black metal song we can, but then mixed in bits of post. It's class. So that's almost done. I did vocals on that today, and just waiting on his vocals, and then that track's done, so I can talk about that one. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. And it's cool to do like a proper black metal track again. Like, that's just, as cult as possible, but then kind of bring different elements. So it's that kind of stuff, It's like, I didn't think I was going to do that again. I didn't think I was going to, break out the keyboards and, all that kind of stuff. So for me, it's interesting. It's exactly what I want to do. I'm doing 2 Machine Head kind of tracks as well. And, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that we're doing. So I guess the next 2 weeks we're gonna really kind of start seeing tracks drip in, because I did set a hard deadline for July. Mm-hmm. July 3rd is the hard deadline for musicians. Mm-hmm. And internally they all know that. Like, we have 120 musicians at the moment. We have a bunch of sponsors, which is great. Red Bull, Flexprint, QWERTY, the list goes on. We're shooting the documentary. That's all going to be done in July and August. So like, there's a lot going on. But now's the weird kind of time where it's like, this is the push. This is where we're going to see the real kind of pedal to the metal kind of thing, and see what actually comes out of it. And for me, this is the exciting part, because I'm like, right, let's see what they've done. Let's see what like these random musicians who probably never met each other are going to do. It's like the ultimate side project. And for me, as we talked about earlier on, like, this is class. I've talked to people who I've never, like, Thomas is a right case in point. And I probably would have talked to Thomas eventually because his band's incredible. Like, but actually work with him so soon, that never would have happened. No, like, the opportunity never would have been there. Now I'm doing a track with Keith's brother, Keith from Horrenda, and he's like a phenomenal mid 2000s Roadrunner guitarist. He just plays exactly like somebody who you want on a Machine Head track or a Chimera track. And I didn't know that. I'm like, holy crap, dude, that's amazing. Cahill, who I play in a Slayer cover band with, he's doing drums for that. An excellent Machine Head drummer, or an excellent drummer in general. But it's just a phenomenal drummer. So it's like, it's cool for that, for me to even, as someone running it, I can still enjoy what probably other bands and people in bands are experiencing, where they're like, we get to work with all these different people, and it's really exciting. And another cool thing that's going to come out of this, I'd imagine, is you're probably going to get albums, side project albums from different people. Like, I'm not going to say who has already said, I want to do a side project album, but they're probably going to do it, because they're already working together. They're already, so, the Irish metal scene at the end of 2021, 2021 or 2022, is going to be not only the bands that exist and that have survived COVID, because I know a couple of bands didn't, but also these side project bands releasing albums that are going to be unreal. And that's crazy. That's like, who would have thought we could have done that ourselves with no funding, no support from RTE or whatever, just us. Just us doing it. And I think that's a great credit to everybody involved. Like, it's amazing. It shows that the metal scene, even after being dealt a death blow, didn't die. It just came back stronger, which is amazing.
Yeah, but I touched on it with David Fogarty in the last one. I think it's very important is the fact that you got Josh Robinson just as the overall filter producer for the whole thing, because as I said to David, if you had it coming out of different studios, it wouldn't have sounded anywhere near as good as it could. So
no, like, I've heard some concern from some people saying, oh, the quality is going to be what it is. And it's just like, yeah, I could understand that. And that's a realistic concern, but we have a team of people filtrating this. Josh is there as well. We have Alan from, what's the band? Can't remember the name of the band. It'll come to me eventually. Actually, Nautilus. Yeah, he was in Nautilus. Now he's in another band. What's the band he's in now? I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, Zora.
Yeah, Zora. There we go. Sorry, lads.
Fucking hell, jeez, I didn't know.
No. All the Zora lads. Colin is doing the art. Like, he's leading the art team. Yeah. Jesus. So like, we have a proper filtration team. Well, that's how it reminded me. Nautilus. Yeah. There we go. That's how I know. It's weird. That's how I know. I was talking to Alan like a month ago, and I haven't talked to him since he was in Nautilus. And I'm like, dude, I remember seeing you in Nautilus when I was in Theories. It's weird. Oh man, such a great band. Like, I love Zora, but I really like Nautilus as well. I thought they were a class. And yeah, like, so this is what I mean. Like, we have controls in place for this kind of stuff. It's not like we're just releasing demos. Like, the most demo thing you're going to get is the raw black metal track, because it's raw black metal, right? But that's still going to be mastered, and it, that's kind of the approach. So we're mastering everything to a standard. So I'm like, we'll see. But like, the support we've had from the lads in the scene, on art, in producing, it's all there as well. It's just where, it's kind of a case of, I don't want to kind of push everything out there until we have something to push out there. But as we've seen from the YouTube video with these update videos and these intros and stuff like that, like, they're going to ramp up. There's going to be a lot more content as soon as more content comes online. But it's kind of a case of, I don't want to promise stuff that isn't there. But what is there is going to be amazing, because it's already coming in huge chunks. Like, the art, can I just say, is out of this world. So when it's done, people are going to be like, holy crap, I want that on my wall. I do. It's gonna be on my wall. But yeah, look, it's getting there. It's class, and I think when it is done, everybody involved is going to be able to look back and go, well, we did that.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool? And it's something that, it might be done again, Phil. It might be done by somebody else. I'm not doing it again. It's not, no way. But, even if it's done again, I hope it's done again. But, we've proved that even after COVID, nothing can kill the metal scene except for ourselves. That's it. Like, the Irish metal scene exists because of us, and it always will exist because of us. And I think that's the important thing to remember. No matter what happens to it, it will still be there. And that's kind of the important thing to take away from it. And again, like, also, if you're a younger member of the scene, or if you're somebody who's just been in one band, talk to the lads who you're on the shows with, hang out with them, go, hey man, or we have a lot of girls on this as well. It's like, hey, do you want to do a track? Right on, and I hope that's open now, where it's like, hey, yeah, I need a guitarist for this. Do you want to do this, or I want vocals in this? And it's kind of stuff that we've always kind of done with Horrenda, Eldis, Aborted Air, but now it's like, it's open to everyone to be like, this is actually something that we can do, because we're all musicians at the end of the day. And I think that's the problem that can happen sometimes, where it's cliquey or it's insular. But breaking that shit up and going, no, we're all part of the one, that's exciting for me, because now, as I said, I've met people who I've never met before, ever, or like Alan, I haven't talked to him in 3 years, 4 years, it's been a long time since I talked to him. And yeah, man, it's cool. Like, it's gonna be great. And we'll see what happens. Like, okay, one thing as well, are there gonna be gigs? I don't know. I'm not running them. No desire to run a gig ever. But what I will imagine is something will happen after COVID, but I won't be running it. So all I'd say is, if people do want gigs of this kind of thing, great. Buy the CD when it comes out. Or the vinyl or whatever. Tell the people involved that you like this and support it. And again, all this money's going to Bernardo's. I'm not getting a penny of it. I don't want any of it. The whole point of this is for us, the scene, and also for charity. So all that money is already gone. We've already raised a substantial amount for Bernardo's, thanks to my job, and my personal donations through that. And it's that's it at the end of the day. So if you want the gigs, cool, buy the CD, support, and then not only are you supporting Bernardo's, but you're also saying you would actually go to these gigs to see these songs played by these bands. Or what I would imagine, like Roadrunner, where it's like two of the main you break them up. So like in Cork, you'd have like two bands play, made up of the members in the team, and then you'd have some guest members and playing songs. Or in Dublin, you'd have like two bands. That's how I would do it. I'd have like two major bands in the scene or whatever, and then you'd have like a band made up of members of those teams or whatever, and then guests in it, because it's really got to do with change over time. That's the problem I would see, where you're like, okay, well, you have to make sure that if there's two drummers on that team, they're both right-handed. The guitar setup has to be around the same. That's the only thing, and that could be done a lot easier if the team all knows each other or whatever. But see, this is why I'm saying I'm not going to organize this, because that's a nightmare. It's like, if somebody wants to organize it, absolutely, and I hope it does happen. But the best way to do it is to show us that there is a desire for it, and the only people who can do that are people watching this and checking the album out.
Yeah, you throw a left-handed drummer in there, and you're fucking
that's the thing, man.
Like.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, hold on a minute while we change this whole thing around for 20 minutes. For a 4-minute song. It's like, it's not going to happen. Like, I do think there is ways around it, and if I do imagine there will be probably an All Ireland metal night at some point, but organizing it, it's beyond me at this point. I'm not a gig organizer. I'm just an organizer, people or whatever. But there is ways around it, and I'd imagine the drummers involved and the guitarists involved would figure something out. But sure, Dan Flynn used to run these cover nights in Fibbers, where you just get on stage and play, and they were good. Some weren't, but it can be done. There is a precedent set for it. So, but to actually get it done in a professional sense, you'd have to factor it in. And shout out to Dan Flynn. Some of my best nights at Fibbers have been because of Dan's nights. So one thing you do miss, man, things are bad when you're missing Fibbers, like as bad as you are.
Oh yeah, the biggest problem I think will be about the rehearsals. Like when you have members in Belfast and maybe Cork or Dublin, it'd be extremely hard to
you see, that's what I mean. Like if you're organizing the shows, you'd have to do them by location. So that's how I'd imagine. You have like your Dublin shows, Cork shows, and then you could have them in different areas. Like, but where the good thing about, I suppose, this way is the songs are already written, so everyone's practicing those songs, and then you can meet up on the day or something like that before you do the show and do it that way, which is how we used to do the horrendous shows, the horrendous practices before shows when we had all those members. So it can be done. Not saying it's the right way to do it, but it's something that can be done, But with that as well, like for me personally, if you localize them around a certain area and then have bigger bands in them, it'll work a lot better. But then again, there is kind of stuff where if everybody agrees, right, on this day we're going to show up and we're going to, really bang through this, it could be done as well. I just, I don't know who's a left-handed drummer and who's not. If there's a left-handed drummer there, as you said, everything is fucked, because it's just not going to happen, But it could be done. It just, we'll have to wait and see if it will be done. Again, I'm not going to say it'll never happen because, who would have thought that we would have got this far already with the All Ireland Metal project
Not many, man.
as a thing,
Well, and instantly, a lot of people were like, there was a lot of skepticism met at the start with that, as usual. Like, there was just.
Man, look, as I said, when Horrendous started as well, it was the same thing. If I listened to that kind of stuff, I wouldn't have started Horrendous. I wouldn't have still been here. Right. It's like,
if I listened to people, I'd have been gone years ago. I wouldn't have done Burning Metal and hopefully the Iron Mountain Metal Festival. I would have been gone fucking years, man, if I listened to what dickheads say.
Look, as I'd say, it's very easy to destroy something. It's very easy to tear something down. It's very hard to build something, and it's important. It's important to just build stuff and surround yourself with the right people. Like Horrenda, I've been lucky to be supported by an amazing band. The guys in the band are, the best. But with this project, from the start, Shannon was there, Keith was there, Carl was there from the start, right. And they were like, whatever you need. And the fact you have, like, that's a handful of people. That's all you need. And then we got more people. We got like here's the great thing about that. The people saying, oh, whatever, they filtered themselves out. The problem people who would have just left and not done anything filtered themselves out. And everyone who's left is amazing. Mm-hmm. Everyone's there wants to be involved and has the same goal. So it's like, hey, man, okay, great. You're not involved. All right. Right on. Peace out. And it's just like, okay. At the end of the day, it's like, this is an opportunity to do something that's never been done before, an opportunity to get back into writing and work with new people. And if you don't want to be involved with that, that's fine. But for me, I'm like, I'm having a great time writing songs. For me, it's creatively fantastic. And then, just the crack even in the team leader chat, the chat and stuff like that is gas. I'm getting to know people who I never would have got to meet otherwise or get to know, while also raising money for a great charity, who are very, very grateful that we're even doing it. So, if you want to tear that down, okay, well done. Why would you want to tear that down? I don't understand it. But people are people, man. It is what it is.
People will tear everything down. Like Tony Carberry tried to get this going last year.
Oh, Tony was another person from the very beginning. From the very beginning, who was there as well. So fair play to Tony, man. Like, it sucks. I was actually in Rock City as well, and it just wasn't there. Again, it was just what the filtration didn't happen. And he's been there from the beginning as well. So, like yourself, Tony is again very, very important for this whole thing, even beginning and happening. But his tracks are nearly done as well. It's gonna be unreal. Like when it's actually an album you could pick up and hold in your hand. That's what I'm looking for. Or even just listen to it. It's and another thing as well, like with the actual Roadrunner United thing, the album itself has some duds, but then it grows on you and you listen to it and you're like, actually, they're not duds. They're just different kind of music. And that's one thing I'm trying to think about, because I'm like, okay, how are these tracks going to fit together on an album? And then you just need to learn to appreciate it in a different way. So anytime I think about it, I'm like, well, all right, we'll have to see. Because some people said, oh, the track list and consistency. I'm like, well, you can't really look at this from an album perspective because it's not an album perspective. It's a project, So I guess that's one thing that we probably have to look into when we have something, But what I will have to say, and it might be a big statement, there's no tracks that I've heard so far that are duds. They're all fantastic. They're all like really, really unique, or just something that I haven't heard before. So it's really cool. Like I heard a trash crossover doing death metal track today, and I was like, oh wow, that's unbelievable. Like it's class, you know. So man, I'm excited for people to hear it. I just, you know, I'm really just like waiting for these tracks to just come in and people are like, okay, this is ready for mastering, and then the rest kind of happens, you know.
Yeah, there's always going to be a few groups in it that probably won't deliver anything. But from what I'm gathering from talking to other people, like you've got the balls of an album here at least. Anyway, between everything, like it's
But look, man, here's the thing: one track being done by a group of people proves this is a thing that can happen.
right. Yeah, good. Great one.
Four tracks being done is a demo.
Yeah.
8 tracks being done is an album.
Yeah.
Anything like one track for me being done and being good, that's a success, and that's already happened. I'm not gonna tell you who it is because he doesn't want me to, but I've heard it and it's out of this world good. So I'm like, it's already been proven. It's already there, you know. So it is what it is. As I said, it might be done again. I hope it is done again. You know, here's my hope for it. 15 years down the line, someone's like, oh wow, did you hear about this weird thing that was done in the Irish metal scene one time? Oh yeah, let's do that again. That's what I want. That's what I want.
And the young lads coming through now, they're a lot more supportive of each other, like than they were back in the day. Absolutely. Like they're all really, like they'll be there fucking giving it all at the gigs, and they're supporting them and everything. They won't be just going out in the smoking area or standing at the back or fucking off. Like they're really.
Look, at the end of man, look, we're getting up there now, you know, and like we have not like horrendous stuff has no intention of going anywhere, but you know, it's the younger generation that like is important because without them, there's no bands. Without them, there's no future, you know. So for me, it's cool to be like, right, we'll do this, we'll get everyone involved, we'll work with the younger people or whatever, and then get them, you know, set up to meet all the people around it, and then in 15 years' time, you know, if it reaches the thing, they're like, oh yeah, did you hear about this thing that was done? Oh, maybe we should do it again. And who knows what the world's going to be like at that point, you know? But for me, that's it. Something where it's just like, this has been done before. You can do it again. Here's how you do it, and that's success. Exactly. Yeah. It's like the Roadrunner United thing itself. That has been done, and it showed us kind of how to do it this time. So we were able to do it again based on that roadmap. Obviously, it's not exactly the same because it's not. But it's a similar kind of way, similar kind of setup, and that's what's important. Because like, look at that, it influenced you, it influenced me, it influenced pretty much everybody who's involved on the track. You know, like what Tony posted today, he goes, "Look what I have," and it was the Roadrunner United album. You know, it's like we all have that album. Well, I bought it there the other day, but we all listened to it.
Myself, I bought it when it came out. Fucking love it, man. Great album.
You know, and it's just like it's that kind of thing, leaving that kind of impression where it's like you can't buy that. You can't fake that. That's a real thing that can be there. And for me, as I said, one track comes out and it's good and people are like, oh, it's a good track. Success. And that's already happened. So now I'm just like, as a fan, I'm just sitting here going, oh my God, I can't wait to hear what this person does with that or what their vocal is going to sound like with that guitar. Yeah. And that's class, dude. That's what I'm excited. I'm sitting there going, as a fan of side projects, and I love side projects, I'm like, this is the ultimate side project. So it is what it is, you know?
And David Fogarty, when I had him on the last time, he said basically his 2 tracks are more or less done. A few bits.
Yeah. And that's what I've heard too.
More or less ready. More or less ready.
Yeah. From the majority of people I've heard, remember we have like 30 teams.
Jesus.
From the majority, yeah. From the majority of that, I've heard we're almost done.
Yeah.
So, as I said, I can't promise anything. I can't say who's on it.
Oh yeah, of course.
I don't know yet. But as a thing, even just using the intros that we've had, that's what, like 8 or 9 tracks, and some of those people have done 2 tracks. So, you know, it's gonna be exciting, dude. Like for me, it's weird because it's the first time I've led a project that I don't actually know. I haven't been there through the whole stages of it. I haven't seen it been developed. Because usually with like Horrenda or even with Tears or something like that, you know, you'd be in the studio recording and you'd be there for the majority of it or there for all of it. Symmetry, not so much, but with, you know, you'd still be involved in every step. But with this, I'm like, here's the deadline, here's the link, here's the thing, do that, there we go. And I'm just sitting there going, let's see what happens, you know? But anytime I've got an update from someone or anytime I've been sent the track, my mouth hit the floor because I'm like, wow, this is incredible.
That's very positive. And We'll give another shout out to young Thomas Hines because he dropped a video with him doing vocals, man, and fucking hell, man, he's 15, like Jesus Christ, like, and he wasn't even mic'd, like it was just
No,
fuck, like.
man, wait to hear the track. That's what's
Oh,
there.
I
Like
can
when he sent me the
imagine
track,
that. I
like,
can imagine
yeah,
he's fucking unreal, man. He's so fucking
unbelievable.
talented, like it. It's ridiculous, like.
Absolutely. No, definitely. I think in a in a very short space of time, he's going to be like someone that is going to make a big impact on the scene already. Like it's it's class. To see someone that young be that talented and then be able to contribute to something like this. That's again showing you this project has worked. It's not just the older people. It's not just the people our age. It's not the people younger than us. It's the people just getting into the scene.
Mm-hmm.
It stretches the whole thing. We have some of the older guys like there's some guys in Celtic Core, some of the guys in Carl obviously. Yeah. Oh yeah. Carl is kicking ass there as a team lead, and then ourselves and some of the younger lads.
You got some really experienced and professional heads.
That's what I mean.
This man,
this is what I mean, man. Like this is it. We are actually bringing this together where guys older than me, younger than me, just starting out. We're all together. We're all working on this. So this is it. This is why it's important. It's never been done before, and it is being done with the best of intentions. We're here to actually kind of be like, right, let's see what we can get. Let's see what we can do. And everyone is top notch. Like as I said, without Carl, we wouldn't have probably got some of the older guard in, and we have, and it's amazing, So.
Jeez, man, some of the names mentioned in this, like fucking the Zora boys, and of course Carl and the Celtic Core, and Jesus, like you've got Neon Empire, Mo Sheeran,
yeah.
You got Young Thomas involved, David from Thoughts of Rune, and my occult involved, Josh Robinson involved, like like
the list goes on and on, man. Like as I said, it's one of those things where you're sitting there going, as a fan specifically, I'm excited because I like pretty much all these bands. I like all these musicians as musicians, and then I'm friends with a lot of them too. So it's kind of like, this is great. Let's see what you guys can do. And again, like even some of the dark horses that we wouldn't know have really started to also deliver. So it's just like, wow, okay, this is a whole new way. And some people are like, I never would have written a track like this, never would have played on a track like this. And that's cool too, because it's like a whole new different way of doing stuff. Like with the track with Thomas and myself, like he did the guitar and the drums, and I was like, look, I'll do bass and just some vocals and some other bits and pieces, and just the track just naturally happened because I was sitting there editing it, and I'm like, okay, this works. Picked up a guitar, start adding guitar parts, and it became a whole other thing that started off well and just kind of grew naturally. And if everyone else is having that process, I'm excited, because it's just like, man, you don't get that lightning in the bottle kind of thing where you're sitting there going, oh my god, this is gonna work, or you're able to add this cool bit in. And as I said, like, yeah, the track we're doing is a black metal track, but there's a lot more going on than just what people are expecting to be black metal, and again, I think there's only 2 black metal tracks on this as well. There's our one and one I'm doing with someone else, but other than that, it's like, we have like doom metal stuff, trash, all that kind of stuff. Again, I'm not gonna get too much into it because I don't want to overpromise.
You can't. No.
But it's something else. Like, it really will be.
Fantastic, and I'm looking forward to hearing it. Anyways, sure, we'll leave it at that now. And who knows, man? Like myself and the other 4. There's 4 directors now of Iron Mountain Metal Festival. We're having a meeting at the end of the month, so who knows, man? We might be able to maybe pull off something at the end of the summer, and I'm in charge of booking, so I maybe get a friend up there as originally planned, and have a bit of crack, We'll see what happens there, but it'd be great if it could.
But look, man, you've always been very supportive of Horrenda as well, and I do, like, I know for myself and the lads, we're very appreciative of that. We really do appreciate the support. Like, from the very beginning, you are one of the people that supported us, so thank you for that. And
it's like with young Thomas. Like, when I started off this whole podcasting, I was like, who am I going to pick? Am I going to pick someone I know for years, which would be the easy option? No, the 15-year-old kid here, really talented. The first one's probably going to get a lot of views to people see how do I fuck it up, like, So I said, right, you're my guinea pig. But it worked out well, though. And he's growing in confidence too, like, and it's great to see, like, and he's got another band sorted out now recently as well. So it's great to see.
Look, that's what's all
future, get the future of metal. You know, we got the kids, get them involved, and you know, tell them there's a thing, and you don't have to be afraid, and you can just come forward to us. You know,
that's what it's all about, man. You know, it's like one of the biggest things that I'm happy to see is gatekeeping.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's one thing that was a problem, and it's starting to go. And it's one of the things that we said even with the All Ireland Metal Project. We're like, no gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Do what you want. You know, whoever you are, come on, let's pull together. You know, and it's if there's one good thing about COVID, it's kind of washed that away now. People realize, oh, we could lose everything in a moment, so we need to kind of pull each other up, and it's that's one thing that's good. So the first episode was great, man. As I said, it's a cool listen. I was happy to be on the show, and there's no better man than yourself to be doing these kind of chill out interviews, and there's lots of great Irish metal podcasts. Shout out to Carl. Like I love anytime we get the opportunity to do Carl. The Metal Cell, work with Carl is brilliant. Metal Cell podcast is great too. From the Depths I really like as well. I think that's a fun show.
The wrong kind of music as well. Wayne Donaldson's project.
Yeah.
That was an hiatus, of course, but there's nothing to talk about. But they're coming back soon enough, I think.
Oh man, there's so many. Like now's just a great time for metal, So it's a great time to just be in that scene, But when we were with the All Ireland Metal Project, Carl's kind of working with us directly, so our updates will be going through King Woe's Court.
Yeah.
So do check that out, and that's where we have like the big detailed breakdown. So yeah, man. Like again, thanks so much for having us on. And if there is a gig or something like that, Horrendos will be there.
Yeah, 100%. And by pure chance, my first 3 guests have all been part of the All Ireland Metal Project. So I'll keep it going on my end too.
Yeah, dude. Look, as I said, if it wasn't for you posting that tweet, that Facebook post, I never would have went off and thought about how to do it. So you are actually like directly involved with it. So thank you for actually making me think, how can we do this?
Oh, no.
And then being involved, and also spreading the word. Like you did the signal boost initially that got all the posts, that got people in. So this is as much you as it is me.
No bother, man. I'm an ideas person. I was in a good place mentally, and I was just like, wait a minute, like. See what happens.
That's
fucking great.
Man, look,
it really is.
Look, that's how some of the best ideas happen, right? As I said, social media sucks sometimes, but sometimes it has those moments where you're like, this is a good idea. And look what it turned into and what it's going to become or what it could become. So
fucking amazing, man, to be honest. I'm delighted to see it happen, because nice to see a bit of positivity coming back into things again. And, when we are coming towards the end of this now, so by the time this comes out, it should be a really great advertisement for the scene, and it'll be bigger than anyone ever imagined, I think, personally, because
the documentary is actually as well. That's one thing that we haven't talked about. I think that's going to also be very.
I mentioned that before we go. Yeah,
that's going to be something as well. That's pretty. Like the names we have involved with that alone, it's pretty cool, man.
Yeah,
pretty cool. Yeah.
Anyway, sure, we'll leave it at that for now, man. Who knows, man? We might have another chat about this when the album comes out.
Dude, I'm always up for a chat, man. It's we always get a good chat. Anyway, it's good to catch up after so many times.
Exactly,
just on Facebook. It's been a while since we actually talked face to face.
A bit of normality. Anyways, man, we'll chat to you later, man.
All right, take care. Thanks very much.
Bye bye.